Should we start?
Yeah. Hi everyone, thank you for joining us today. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Nicole. I work in the faculty office as a program manager in the area of learning and teaching. So today's session is really just to give an overview around the partnership that the university has with Kaplan. Particularly, we're going to be introducing you to the Melbourne Campus because that is soon to commence teaching delivery in Melbourne. But as most of you know, we have a long-standing relationship with Kaplan, and we've been teaching in the University of Adelaide College for quite a number of years, previously called Bradford College. So today is just really an overview, an opportunity to ask questions. There's two parts of the presentation today. So Professor Suzanne Lemire, our Deputy Dean Learning and Teaching over here at Professions, is going to kick off the session to talk about just the introduction to the Melbourne Campus and what we've set up in the Melbourne Campus, what the program setup is. And then we're going to hand over to Associate Professor Nick Faulkner from ECMS. And Nick is the Program Director for Melbourne from the Faculty of ECMS, and he's also the Program Coordinator for the IT programs that are being launched in Melbourne as well. So welcome everyone. I hope you get the most out of the session. We will have opportunity to ask questions at the end of each section. And I do want to let everyone know that the session is being recorded, so unless anyone has any issues with the recording, please let us know now. I'll keep an eye on chat if you've got any questions coming through chat. And I'd also like to welcome our Kaplan colleagues. Mona is the Academic Director from Kaplan and the college, so a lot of you have probably met Mona before, but welcome Mona and thank you for joining us today as well. So over to you, Suzanne.
Thanks, Nicole, and welcome everyone. It's particularly nice to have a jointly delivered session with ECMS. I think this is the first one of these that we've done together, but hopefully there are many more in the future. So this is obviously a really important milestone for us as a university to have a campus in Melbourne. It's had something of a rocky start given COVID, as you would all expect, but I just think it's worth just noting at the moment as we start that this is a really important relationship for us. So at the moment we are from the University of Adelaide College receiving about 400 international students through that pipeline. So that's a very critical part of our business. I know that we won't this year get the load that we had hoped for the Melbourne campus. But having said that, that gives us an opportunity, I think, to test our systems and to get things right with a smaller cohort, which is probably a welcome thing before the international borders open and we get something with more students in the oncoming semesters and trimesters. Okay, so this, just to give you some background to the Melbourne campus, the reason why this has been adopted is really to try and gather students who would not ordinarily come to Adelaide. So the cohort we're seeking to attract is a cohort that either have connections in the eastern states or a strong desire to study in the eastern states, but want a group of 8 university. They may not have the background to qualify for Melbourne University or Monash University, so those students then may be interested in a group of 8 experience with us. So the potential is that we get excellent students through this pathway from a new market that we haven't yet been able to crack. As you would expect, the travel restrictions have severely restricted the number of students coming from international destinations into Melbourne. And so at this point in time, we are seeing the recruitment coming mainly as I understand it, from students who have been here doing their Year 12 or have been in Melbourne doing their Year 12 studies. Okay, so tell you a little bit about the Melbourne campus. It was launched in early 2019. It's based in the Docklands area of Melbourne, which some of you may be familiar with, so quite a new, bustly area, very close to the city and very close to the football stadium, and I've forgotten what it's called. It's Docklands, is it? The football stadium.
Not sure.
So our students can get a full taste of the Melbourne vibe, very close to the university campus. The plan for the campus is that we will be bringing students in initially on a pathway program. Do you want to flip to the next one? In 2021, with the only exception being the PMP, the pre-masters program, with those students potentially progressing in Try 3 to a direct to entry to our award programs. So
I'm just going to pick up what
this is what the classrooms look like. So I have been to the Melbourne campus, and it is very clearly marked as a university, a campus of ours. The facilities are very good. You can get a little taste, and I think one of the slides also shows where that campus is.
Yeah, just here. So it's a Kaplan building, and our campus is on level 3 of that building.
And there's also a cafe in the building, and so and some student support services, so students are not will get a sort of full service opportunity there. So this tells you a little bit more about the programs. Sorry. There we go. These are the programs that we will be ultimately rolling out into Melbourne, with our first launch being of the foundation and pathway programs. Okay, now one of the challenges that we do have in with the Melbourne campus is that the delivery will be in trimester mode, but their dates do not currently align with our dates. So for 2021, the dates will be not aligned to ours, with them starting a little bit later with their trimester 1 and progressively starting after us. They can pretty much cover what we have here.
Yeah, so just with the support services over at Kaplan, so obviously, and Mona, you may want to jump in at any point here. At the moment, there's going to be a small team in the located at the Docklands campus, and the Kaplan team, so Siobhan as National Director, so a lot of you already know Siobhan Guy, and they've recently recruited a Campus Director, so they will be located in Melbourne, if I'm right, Mona, is that correct? The Campus Director will be located in Melbourne, and
Nicole, just jumping in, it's not a Campus Director, it's a Campus Manager.
Campus Manager, sorry, and then obviously as the student cohort grows, there will actually be a team of student service staff located in Melbourne, similar to our Professions Hub, where there'll be program advisors and student advisors on the ground. And they also have access to a tutor assistance drop-in program, which is already established at the Kaplan Business School at the Docklands Centre. And as Suzanne mentioned before, there's cafes and common study spaces for students. And this is just a snippet of what some of the common areas of the campus are in Melbourne.
So you can see they're just waiting for students.
So before we pass over to Nick, does anyone have any questions about the Melbourne campus at this point, or we can also just wait for questions till the end? I'll just check chat as well. That's me. No. Nothing in chat. Okay, I'll continue sharing. Okay, over to you, Nick.
Thank you very much. So what we'll be doing here is, of course, we've got a separate campus, but it's still us. And one of the most important things that we wanted to have was the staff who worked there becoming fully fledged staff in terms of the assessment and the examinations and all the coordination that goes on. But we recognised that there was going to be a transition period, particularly given the current circumstances that we're all finding ourselves in. Could I get the next slide, please? So in terms of what we're going to do, we'll have course coordinators who will be running from the Adelaide side, but the non-award and award courses themselves will be taught by Kaplan academic staff, where the university will collaborate on quality assurance and assessment. And every university course offered at Melbourne Campus is going to have oversight by a UA course coordinator, but those course coordination duties will vary within each program by need. So what I'm about to describe is the way that the School of Computer Science is going to be working over the next year with the Bachelor of Information Technology. So in our case, sorry, there we go. In our case, the course coordinators are going to prepare, plan and coordinate the teaching and assessment for the instances that we initially run. But we will be working with the Kaplan appointed staff to ensure that they are trained into our systems. So with the intention that by the time the campus is operating, hopefully at full steam by next year, then the regular duties of assessment refresh and exam production and things like that will all be conducted by staff on the Melbourne campus by Kaplan appointed academic staff. But that will come into the general school's quality oversight framework in the same way that we would normally have an examiners meeting with an external person teaching a particular course. So we're maintaining those quality linkages, but the one thing we didn't want to do was to actually try and do two jobs over the top when we've got staff who are going to be appointed into Melbourne who will be, perfectly capable of doing all of this. We're just regarding it as a 1 year to 18 month training phase while we get everything sorted. As was noted earlier, we have a smaller enrolment this year, which does give us the opportunity to test a lot of systems and to see how things work before we actually head into scale. If I could have the next slide, please. So one of the things that we obviously need to make sure that we've got is good onboarding for the new teaching staff, ensuring that the materials that we are going to be delivering are made available to the staff in plenty of time. And so there are obligations around the preparation of my uni and teaching materials and things like that. So that actually syncs in with the Kaplan appointment cycle. And making sure that we follow the general principles around assessment, which is that when students start the course, they are completely clear as to what the course is going to be. So any adjustments that we're planning to get made before teaching itself commences. We're looking to have regular catch-ups with the staff over there, particularly this year. There'll be some regularly scheduled ones, but there'll also be ones that tie into key academic dates and obviously around the important issues of assessment and familiarity in that area. So one of the things that we have discovered from earlier arrangements that's very important is maintaining those regular meetings, is making sure that all the courses that our students touch, we have an idea of the quality oversight, as well as making sure that that information is flowing. But also that if we find something that works particularly well in Melbourne, that as course coordinators, we actually all get together and go, hey, this would be a great solution. Why don't we do some more of that? Okay, and I think, Dave, you're taking the next slide, aren't you?
Yes, please. So I guess the key kind of things to call out in terms of where we move going forward, there's going to be a really comprehensive guide in terms of the roles and responsibilities for course coordinators. This is in the final approval stage, so hopefully this is going to be approved by the Melbourne Management Committee tomorrow, and then we'll be able to just distribute and share. And I think that's going to kind of put in context a lot of what Nick's referred to, understanding that it's very hard and we could sit here for 4 or 5 hours to try and map this out in detail, but I think this document is going to give a really comprehensive guide in terms of the roles and responsibilities. And so, for example, referencing the question that's just come through chat, University of Adelaide staff will not be teaching the students on the Melbourne campus. The primary role will be kind of the provision of the content via I guess, duplication of the MyUni course for the Melbourne campus for the Melbourne students to access. Also working with the Kaplan staff kind of shoulder to shoulder to update, change, adjust as required. And so a good example of that is the slight difference in terms of the teaching duration of the trimester versus the semester, which I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Mona, is 1 week less than a semester model. So very, very close, but still that 1 week difference could have impacts in terms of assessments and whatnot. And then that quality assurance, as Nick referenced as well, in terms of the assessment and the exams. But that guide will distribute as soon as it is finalised. And the other thing we wanted to call out in terms of, I guess, the first breach or step in terms of this collaboration is to invite everyone within this forum and everyone who's involved in a course that will be taught in Melbourne, but also broadening that out to everyone at the University of Adelaide who has a University of Adelaide College course to a networking event. We really want to be proactive in this space in terms of connecting academic to academic as much as possible to share best practice, but also just to make that connection so that that knowledge sharing occurs, that we have kind of an understanding of the staff and also an understanding of the physical location itself in terms of the campus, the University of Adelaide College in Adelaide. So that will be hosted at Kaplan, as you can see there, 23rd of February, so next week, 10 a.m, and invitations will be sent out shortly in regards to that. I can see in the chat another question from Fred was how many teaching weeks? Again, correct me if I'm wrong, Mona, I'm running off the top of my head, but I think it's 12 as opposed to 13.
It's 12 plus 1, so 12 weeks of teaching, 1 week of SWOT rec, 1 week of assessments.
Yeah, Fred, no course remapping is required. Our courses come straight out of the system. Cool. I believe that is us.
Yeah, so that's the end of the slides and the formal presentation, but it's really now an opportunity for anyone to ask questions. You can either raise your hand in the Zoom or just pop your question on chat and we can talk through that.
Nick, I just want to confirm. So the 2021 dates are going, so from 2022 we're going to realign into the standard trimester mode or with the university or we always run?
That's what we hope to do, Cheryl. So when the contract was first drawn up, it was established that it will be the trimesters in line with the delivery that is already taking place at Docklands, and that's why it was a different academic date model to what we have here at the Adelaide campus. But to streamline our processes, we're trying to align the dates to one of our teaching term delivery, and because it's delivered in a trimester and we want to have 3 intakes in Melbourne, it will most likely be aligned to our trimester delivery model. Now, that will be good in the sense that we're already doing, student life cycle, student administration, student teaching delivery across trimesters at that same time. But we also recognise that some of the courses, particularly in professions, some of the programs are semester-based programs. So it does mean that it won't be aligned to the semester delivery of those programs, but at least it's in line with the university academic dates of trimester. So that's definitely what we hope to do. So we need to move that through the Melbourne Governance. I might actually just take a second now to talk about that governance and how that works, and because I think that's really important, that where staff have feedback or if they want to discuss any issues or even good news stories coming out of the Melbourne campus, what the governance looks like here at the university. So there is a strategic joint board that governs the contract, and so that's quite high level. Then there's the joint academic board, and we have representation from Suzanne, if I'm not wrong.
I think Braden would be there as well.
Yeah, so the Deputy Deans Learning and Teaching are at the joint academic board. So that has a lot of that decision making around if there's new programs to be launched in Melbourne, if there's academic quality issues that require require discussion, input, decision making that would be done at Joint Academic Board. Then there's the Melbourne Management Committee. So that is really around the management oversight of Melbourne, and that is really where an issue log would be managed at that level, and then it would either be escalated to the Joint Academic Board or resolved at the Melbourne Management Committee. During implementation of Melbourne, we created a group called the MOG, which is the Melbourne Operations Group. So that was really to manage the operational setup of Melbourne Campus, and we think that group will stay in place for at least the first academic year in Melbourne as we are working through the operationalisation of Melbourne, that is probably going to be staying there for the short term. Long term, the MOG is not in the contract, but that may change down the track if we think it's worthwhile having that operations group as well as the management group. So that's the governance as it sits now. So I sit on the operations group, as does Dave from ECMS. On the management group, we have representation from the faculty executive directors. And Nick, are you on the Melbourne Management Committee as well?
I think so. I'm so sorry to not be clear on that. I've joined about 17 committees in the last month. So.
I know exactly how you feel. There's been, as the Melbourne campus has been rolled out, there's been a number of committees and working groups, so it is confusing. But that is the current governance as it stands now. Now we've had a couple of more questions come through chat as well. So what IT facilities are there? And then Nick has said that there's computing labs. So yes, there are going to be a couple of computing labs on the Melbourne campus, and that will be either labs for students to use at their own time for study, but also teaching labs where the course delivery requires the teaching to be done out of a computer lab. So just to give you some context to that, the university ITDS team has been played a major role in the setup of the Melbourne campus, where it's all the Adelaide Uni servers and etc. that has been set up at Melbourne campus. I've worked with schools, and so has Dave, to collate course software requirements. So the Kaplan team are aware of any software needs needed for the labs. Or where the softwares will just be built into the My Uni delivery. So we've worked through that piece as well. So that answers the IT question, unless you've got further questions. Just going down here. CAT setup or different, I'm not sure what that means. Is that?
That's computing, sorry. Yeah. That's the question about the computing labs. That's a specific setup we have in ECMS.
We will be teaching a subset of the available courses, but we'll make sure that the facilities that are there will match what's required in terms of ECMS. No, Fred, students are not expected to have their own laptops. If students are connecting remotely for whatever reason, then obviously they can't use the labs, but the labs are provided. Laptops are not expected.
Just with regards to BYOD, the only thing I'll say to that is, Chi, I think you're online somewhere. For the courses that we teach in our trading labs here, the trading lab license to start off with in Melbourne will be on a BYO device facility. So we'll be managing that with Kaplan and our students who are enrolled in those courses, but it's only a very small cohort to start off with. As the cohort grows, we would look to see if we wanted to set up a lab with licenses, but obviously that costs money. So right now we're doing it through the BYO device setup. So that would be the only caveat there for professions around the finance trading lab.
Nicole.
Yes, hi Chi.
Hi Nicole. Just make sure that the academic staff, they can access to the icons.
Yeah, absolutely. So part of that software register that we sent to Kaplan was a recommendation that where the academic staff will require purchasing of software, and the trading lab software, that icon software, if that's what it's called, was one of those purchases that were recommended. So Siobhan, Mona, and your IT person, Mona, was working through that. Is that right? Yeah. So that's been noted, Chi. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions from anyone? Yeah, Tony, hi.
I just had to turn my microphone on. Digressing slightly a little bit, program introduction timelines. You said during the presentation, I think, that the foundation program is going to be starting off. I'm sort of interested in how soon I need to be prepared for a second year BCom course. Sort of, when are we going to be having advanced entry type students, or are we just going to sort of slowly ease them in? In other words, can I sit on my hands for 12 months?
You probably can sit on your hands for 12 months. But
Actually, it's
so
24 months.
The answer to that is that the degree transfer, so the undergrad students will just be doing the non-award degree transfer program in 2021. And the award courses will not start until 2022. But it depends on what course you're teaching, whether that'll be a 2022 delivery or a 2023 delivery. So if it was Management Accounting 2, for example, I'm pretty sure that's marked for 2022 delivery. But there'll be no second year courses in 2021. It's just going to be the non-award pathway. For masters,
so is that longer term timetable going to be available to us so we can prepare?
Yeah, so we've already got it in draft form, which is being shared with schools, but I'm happy to recirculate that to school managers and associate heads and say just disseminate. But that is the current draft timetable for the next 3 years we've got in place, thanks to Mona's team and all their hard work mapping that out. So between Mona and the Hub and school managers, we've mapped out for 3 years of what the study plans might look like and when courses are being delivered. For the PMP, so the PMP, the normal PMP program that includes the bridging program, that will go over all of 2021, but there is a PMP accelerated program, and that's kicking off this year in trimester 1. So any students in the accelerated version of the PMP, they will actually start their award program in trimester 3, 2021. So the schools, I certainly can speak for professions, that the schools are already aware of what courses for 2021 need to be delivered and how that impacts the allocation of course coordinators to those subjects. So there is going to be four award courses at postgraduate level being offered in trimester 3 of the Melbourne Campus this year. Does that answer that question, Tony? And it won't be one of your courses, otherwise you would know by now. Any other questions? I think there's some more that's come through on chat. Oh no, will there be a remote teaching? That's a really good question actually. So what I did find out at the last operations group is that obviously we've talked about today that there is going to be a small cohort of students to start off with. And right now, within that small cohort of students, there's I think 5 of those students are onshore and there's a bunch of students offshore. So there is definitely going to be a blended delivery model in 2021. Whether that ends up being, that actually hasn't been totally finalised, so Kaplan are working through that. So whether that's going to be that all lectures might be online, there might be some blended tutorials or some on-campus cohort type activities for those students onshore. There is definitely going to be a blend of face-to-face and online in 2021.
Yeah, so the point of the question is that when you get shut down, of course, if you don't do remote, then you shut down properly, which probably won't be acceptable to anybody. So that's something we probably need to build in as a default mechanism anyway, isn't it?
Absolutely, especially with everything that's been going on in Victoria the last 12 months. So remote is definitely going to happen no matter what. There just might be some blended experience for those students commencing onshore.
Okay, so I've one last question, just to make sure I'm looking at the right thing. So the Melbourne trimester dates, the 3rd trimester actually runs all the way to March next year, doesn't it?
Yeah, so it starts in November. Is that right, Mona? Yeah, it's a November start.
So that's going to overlap with a large chunk of trimester 1 for the following year then, isn't it? Which will...
Say that last bit again, Fred.
So that's going to overlap with a large fraction of trimester 1 for the following year. Okay.
Yeah, so if we do initiate new academic dates, and I am going to preface that with we haven't looked into the detail of doing that and the impact on student study plans, but yes, there's going to be an overlap, so there may need to be a transition period of where we start the new dates and where we end the old dates. So whether it's these students who started in the new date, so we haven't looked through that, Fred, as yet, but I totally understand your point that there will be an overlap with Tri 1 if we align it to our Tri 1 dates.
I just want to jump in there. Ultimately, for the Faculty of Engineering, we're actually going to be organising a meeting for all of the people who are associated with it to go through some of these issues, to make sure that we've got a grasp on the remote alternatives and what we're going to do, but also so that we can feed information back to heads of school to allow them to make better planning decisions. So for everyone from the Faculty of Engineering who's on this call, you'll see a mail request from Dave very shortly for a meeting in the next week where we'll be able to cover the implementation issues that are specific to us. Thanks.
Thanks, Nick.
Oh, could I throw in one last question, which isn't relevant to my courses? Do you have any library facilities?
Yes, there is. There's a small library on campus, Fred, but there's also a local Docklands library right near the campus. So there are library facilities, like actual hard copy library facilities, but as University of Adelaide students have the full access to the online catalogue at the Bar Smith Library. Oops, our lights just turned off. So they have the full online catalogue of our Bar Smith Library, plus there's access to a hard copy library at Docklands.
Just a quick question about dates, just because I'm not quite familiar with the trimester. Is there any overlap with the university shutdown that we need to be aware of, or is it clear of that?
Yeah, so there is week 5 of Melbourne trimester 1 overlaps with the April shutdown, so shutdown period 3 of the EAV. So I've actually got it on the agenda for the Melbourne Operation Group to talk to on next week, I think the meeting is, to just make sure that the Melbourne team are aware that course coordinators are not going to be available during that week, and give Kaplan an opportunity to tell us whether there's any issues with that for us to consider with regards to the shutdown and if any exemptions are required. I don't foresee that we would need exemptions because the delivery is being done by Kaplan staff, but it certainly is on the agenda to discuss.
Great, thanks.
Great point, Cheryl. Thank you for reminding me of that. I was across that for most other things, but it's always good to keep it in the front of my head too.
Any other questions? Gareth, Noel, I know as heads and deans of schools, you're online. Anything from you? No?
Nothing from me, Nicole. Thanks, though.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity, but it's fine at the moment.
Thanks, Gareth. Okay, I can't see any more questions coming through. So unless we have anything else, oh yeah, Mona.
Hi, Nicole, and hi, everyone. Thank you for this opportunity, Nicole, for me to jump on as well. And just letting everyone who's on this call be aware that a follow-up email is going to come your way at some stage today or tomorrow, providing you details with the networking session that we are going to hold on Tuesday next week. We invite you to come over to the college, have a tour of our newly renovated space, have conversations with our academics here. and we'll feed you and take care of you. So we'd like to see you here, and feel free to ask any questions anytime, and we'll put up a RSVP link in that email invite as well. So I look forward to seeing all of you, if not as many of you as possible. Thanks, Nicole.
Thanks, Mona. Appreciate you coming today. Okay, anything from anyone else? No, thanks everyone. This session's been recorded, so we're happy to have that sitting in a box account or something like that, and we can share the link, so any colleagues who couldn't be here today are more than welcome to listen back to the recording. So we'll send that out in due course as well. Thanks everyone.
Thanks everyone.
Thanks Nick as well for presenting.
No worries.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Thanks everyone.